Hey, Jeff here with Digital Trends to give you a quick look at the Motorola Droid Bionic. This phone was originally shown back at CES in January. It is the first dual-core 4G LTE phone on Verizon. The first three phones, the Droid Charge, the HTC Thunderbolt, and the LG Revolution, were all single-core phones and a little big. This one is not big. It is big in that it has a 4.3-inch screen, like most of them. Follows the new sizing of a lot of the Android phones, but it is quite thin compared to some. Here's it compared to an original Droid there, and as you can see, it's quite slim, especially for a dual-core LTE phone from the current ones we've seen. It's 1 GHz Tegra 2 processor, dual core, and it's got a full gigabyte of RAM, so kind of the standard, technically the standard specs for a lot of the tablets we've seen, but also the dual core phones. It runs Android 2.3, which is currently the newest version. There's a new version called Ice Cream Sandwich coming out soon, which will either be Android 2.4 or Android 4.0, we don't know. But it's not out yet, and this is the newest we've got. It also runs, as you can see, it's not quite stock Android. It's pretty close, but it's not quite the stock. It runs Motorola's Ninja Blur interface, and it also has like a kind of a 3D effect that was disabled on the Photon 4G. This phone overall follows the stylings of recent Motorola phones. It's got like the Droid 3, Photon 4G, and the Droid X2. It has a metallic edging here. This is metal. Black screen, haptic touch buttons, and on the back it has the typical rubberized backing, a little more plasticky than usual. It's also pretty easy to pull off the back here on this phone. Usually it's a little harder. And as you can see, that is a 1735 milliamp battery, which is a little larger, about 200 larger than some of the ones we've seen. But it is needed to power a phone on Verizon's 4G network, which tends to drain the battery pretty fast. Even with this larger battery, we've had a little bit of trouble with battery life. As you can see up here, it already is a little low. I don't believe we charged it last night, but it's had little to no use at all, and it's still draining pretty quick there. I don't think we have Wi-Fi disabled right now. If we did, it would drain a little bit slower. But so yeah, the interface, we like some Motorola's widgets that they have here. As you can see, this is a social widget. If we go into it, it's actually kind of fun to scroll through recent updates. You can plug in your Facebook profile, Twitter profile, and what have you, and that's pretty fun. They don't have a really good clock widget, but the calendar widget suffices. And there's a few others that are pretty good too. The camera on the phone, there's a 8 megapixel rear camera, and the front is only VGA, which is kind of a little low resolution. But the rear camera can do 1080p video. We found some of the pictures were a little washed out, like a lot of Motorola phones recently. But it does the trick. I wouldn't buy this phone if you're looking for a good camera, but then again, I wouldn't buy any smartphone if you're really looking for a good camera. It kind of gets the job done in a pinch. And overall, aside from the battery life, and we still have issues with the Motorola screen, it probably doesn't come out on the video here. It's not very colorful. It's not very bright in person compared to some of the other screens. And you can actually see, I doubt we're going to be able to, I can never seem to see it, but you can see a bit of pixelation because the subpixels, they use a Pentel screen, and the subpixels are actually visible, so it almost looks like all the edges are kind of pixelated on objects. It's minimal, it's getting better. Each Motorola phone seems to look a little better the screen. But it's still kind of an issue if you're into a bright screen and that's a problem for you. We recommend maybe finding another phone. As far as the feel of the phone, this is a big device. It's a lot bigger than, say, the original Droid, or even it's a tad bit larger than the Photon 4G, which just came out on Sprint. We actually like the Photon 4G a little better. It has kind of these rounded edges, and its power button is located up in the upper right, whereas the Droid's is located on the left side there. And it's a lot easier to use the volume buttons on the Photon than the 4G, and it has a camera button too, which is very nice, which is absent from the Droid Bionic. So overall, it's not quite as comfortable. They kind of went for the blocky styling over comfort, which the Photon kind of has, but it's not bad either. It's better than a lot of smartphones, and it doesn't feel like it's going to fall out of your hand or anything like that. This guy has a 16 gigabytes of internal memory, comes with a 16 gigabyte card, and retails for $299. So it's a bit expensive, but overall, it's a pretty good phone. If you can get over the screen and you can deal with the battery life, maybe get an extra battery, it's definitely fun to have the high 4G speeds. So that is a look at the Droid Bionic.